Hi all you beautiful people out there, this is Chic Glamour Makeup Artistry. I hope you're well and keeping safe. So excited because today we start our new series, Makeup Basics for Beginners, how to apply your makeup. In today's tutorial, we will be looking at how to color correct, how to conceal, how to choose the correct color for your foundation, how to apply your foundation and how to set it. In my previous video, I explained to you what color correcting is, what concealing is. I explained to you the difference between them. I showed you all the different color correctors that you get and the function of each one. I also showed you the brushes that you can use for color correcting and concealing. For those of you who have not watched the video, you have to go and check it out. On the one side of my face, I'm going to do just concealing, and on the other side I'm going to do color correcting and concealing. That is so that you can see the different coverages that each one gives you, and also a way for you to see how you will decipher whether you need just concealing or if you need color correcting as well. For my concealing, I'm going to use LA Girl Pro Conceal in the color Toffee. So remember I told you that with your concealing you need to use a color that is as close to your skin tone as possible. Okay, where would you color correct or conceal? You would color correct or conceal anywhere where you either need to lighten an area on your face or darken it in order to even out your skin tone. So with lighter skins, normally it's just lightening some darkness, whereas with darker skin tones you will find areas where you need to lighten as well as areas where you may have to darken as well. So that is basically for you to decide where you're going to color correct and where you're going to conceal. Okay, so now that I've applied my concealer everywhere that I need it, and I only apply it where I need it, I am going to blend it out, and I'm using a little beauty blender, and I am not moving the product. I'm really just blending it where I have applied it. Okay, so using a wet beauty blender is a lot easier to blend because it doesn't move the product. It really just blends it in place if you use a stippling motion. So that is really just what I'm doing here. I'm just blending it nicely into the skin. Okay, so now I'm going to use a bigger beauty blender just to ensure that I've blended everything nicely. Okay, then I'm going to take a little bit of my setting spray. I'm using the Essence setting spray. I'm going to spray it onto my blender, and I'm just going to tap everywhere that I have applied concealer. So what this does is that when you apply your foundation, your concealer is not going to move. You'll be able to blend your foundation on really well. So now that I've done my concealing on the side, and you can see that it has lightened the darkness quite a bit, so it looks quite nice, but I'm not happy with this coverage, so I'm going to go in and do some color correcting. So I'm going to do that on the side of the face. So generally what I do is underneath my eye area I will mix some of the red and orange and on my nose as well, and I'll tell you why I do that. Because I feel like the darkness under my eyes is too dark and the orange doesn't really neutralize it enough, so the red really helps with that. For the red, I'm using this palette here, which is my Crayolan palette, and the reason why I use the red on my nose as well is because it helps, although it helps to lighten the darkness under my eyes, but because my nose is a lot lighter, it helps to darken it a bit as well. So that is what I'm doing here. Then on my nose as well. take some of that red. So I'm not applying a lot of it, I'm just really taking it on my blender, and I'm just going to blend that out. I'm just going to add a little bit more of the orange onto my eyes. So with any product that you're applying, any liquid product that you're applying on your face or cream product, you always start with a minimum amount, and you can always add as you feel that you need more of it, because it's a lot harder to try and blend out too much product that's on your face, right? How do you know which color corrector to use? So that's really something that you need to try out and see for yourself. So if you are lighter skin tone, you're going to play around with either the pink, the yellow, or the peach. On a darker skin tone, you're going to play between the orange and the red, and you might find that in some instances you're using a combination of two colors like I've done now. So it's really just through practice and trying out and playing around with the colors and using the different colors so that you can see which one gives you the best coverage that you want, that you're happy with, right? So now that I've blended out my color corrector, I'm going to go in with my concealer. So I'm going to use the same concealer that I used on this side of my face, the Elegant Pro Conceal in the toffee color. So I'm going to just add little dots of it everywhere that I've added my color corrector. Nice as well. So I'm going to take my beauty blender and I'm going to go in and blend. So I'm using a wet beauty blender still, because I really feel like a wet beauty blender works really well, because not only does it blend better than a dry one, but it will also absorb any excess product that you may have on your face. Okay, so just exactly where I have applied it, that's where I'm blending it, and I'm not moving it. And that's the beauty of the beauty blender. Like I think I've said that like a million times already. Okay, I'm going to go in with a little bit more of the concealer where I feel that I want to cover the color corrector a little bit better. So I'm going to take my bigger beauty blender and just make sure that it's nicely blended and I have no excess product on my face. Then I'm also going to color correct on my neck, right? Because we generally take our foundation down, and remember, we need to look one tone from your forehead down to your chest. You need to look one tone, right? So when I bring down my foundation here, this darkness is still going to show, right? So I'm going to quickly just conceal there so that we can see the difference in the coverage. Concealing takes a bit of time, but it's really worth it because it gives you a nice even out skin tone, right? So on this side here, I'm gonna go in with a little bit of the orange, and just where I have a few marks as well. And take my blender. Then I'm gonna go in with my concealer over that, just everywhere where I added the orange. So you can see a difference. The concealer on its own did a good job. It did lighten it quite a bit. It did help to even out the skin tone quite a bit. But the color corrector for me did a much better job. So it just depends on how dark the areas are that you're trying to camouflage. So in some instances you'll find that your concealer will work on its own, but then there's other instances, like in my case, where the darkness is just so dark, it's almost black underneath my eyes and on my eyelids, so the concealer doesn't really cover it completely. The color corrector does one other thing as well. It also brightens up your face. So you can see this side of my face just looks a lot brighter. So that's one of the nice things about the color corrector. Even if you don't have anything to camouflage, you don't have anything to cover, but on days where your skin is just looking very dull, you know, your eyes are just looking a bit droopy, the color corrector can fix that. It can really make you look bright. It can really make you look so awake. So guys, that is really what the color correcting and the concealing is. It's just very straightforward. It's very easy. You just go in exactly on the areas where you want to even out your skin tone. So let's go to our foundations. When you've done applying your foundation, you need to be one tone from your forehead down to your chest. So the idea is not to have your face looking one color, your neck a different color, and then your chest a different color. The idea is to kind of even it out and just kind of bring some kind of harmony there, right? But now we're not all that lucky to be able to go out and grab one foundation and that's going to work for your face, for your neck, and just, you know, it's that one color that works all over. A lot of us, like myself, my chest is lighter than my face and my neck, and then my neck is darker than my face. So it's really very tricky there. It's kind of difficult and it's a bit tricky for me because one foundation is not going to work. I need a foundation that I put on my neck that matches my chest, and then I need a foundation that's going to work on my face. The foundation that I'm going to use on my neck matches my chest, right? Because I don't want there to be a line here. But then that color, when I put it on my face, it looks too light because my chest is a lot lighter than my face. So I need to adjust that color to match my face. So I'm going to show you how to do that. So if you want to go out and get, you know, a color that matches your face and a color that matches your chest, you're welcome to do that. An easier way is to, if you're going to buy foundation and you have the problem that I have, rather buy the lighter one and then we can adjust it to match your face. So to adjust it, what you can do, you don't need to go and buy a darker foundation. You can simply use your concealer, the color that you would use for your contouring, which is a darker color, and you can then make your foundation a little bit darker. If you're trying to lighten your foundation, then you can use your concealer, the one that you use for your cream highlighting, to lighten your foundation. So I always start applying the lighter color first because I don't want my brush to then have a darker color and then influence the lighter color afterwards. So I'm going to start with that. So I'm using Allegal Pro Coverage, and I'm using this in the color Warm Caramel. So I'm going to take a little bit of this out onto the back of my hand, and I'm going to put it on my neck. So you can see there isn't a line. There's no line. It blends in well with my chest. Okay, so before I start with the face, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with my primer. So I'm using Allegal Pro Prime. So I'm going to take a bit of the primer and I'm just going to add it wherever I need it. If you've added your primer before you did your color correcting and your concealing, then that's fine, right? So now I'm going to go in with my foundation. Now, the foundation is not the right color. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of the foundation on. If I take it and I put it on my face, it may look like, okay, it works, but once it's all over my face, it just looks too light. So with a bit of this foundation on my hand, I'm going to go in and I'm going to take my darkest my darkest concealer, and I'm just going to add a little bit of it. I'm going to add a little bit at a time because I don't want to change the color and make it too dark. Mix this, and you can see here. So you can see I've moved the color slightly darker. So I'm gonna take my brush now, pick my product up, and I'm going to start adding it, blending it. So I like using a stippling motion at first. So although I have already put foundation on my neck, I have to blend this into that foundation that's already there, so that it doesn't just look like this ends here, right? Remember, you always take your color down onto your neck as well. So that's what I'm going to do. Your foundation never ends here, because you never want to see that line here. And because I've put a different color on my neck, I need to blend it in. So that is what I'm doing now. I'm taking it down onto my forehead. And don't forget, guys, you must blend it into your hairline. You don't want that line there. It really doesn't look nice. So you want to make sure that you blend it into your hairline. So I always start off my foundation with a brush, and after I have applied the foundation all over, I will then go in with my trusted beauty blender. So my beauty blender is wet, but I do a little extra where I spray a bit of my setting spray onto my beauty blender. It's just an extra step to ensure that it sets a lot nicer. So I am really just going to make sure that I go over every area of my face to make sure that I'm blending it out properly, and also to make sure that if there's any excess product anywhere, my beauty blender is going to pick that up. So, and you can just see a difference when you start blending with your beauty blender. It really just helps give your foundation a much more flawless look. It really does. Also because it takes away any lines that your brush will leave. So for me, I feel like that little bit of the darker color that I added into my foundation and shifted my foundation color just a little bit darker made a difference. I feel like it really matches my skin a lot better. Bringing it a little bit down under my neck, you can see, you can't really see the two different colors. It blends in. There's that harmony. I don't know if that makes sense to you, but it really just blends in well. So from here down, it looks blended. It, like I say, you won't always get exactly the color, but as close as possible. So if you know, makeup on the whole is not meant to make you look different. It's just really, the foundation gives your skin a more even skin tone. It just really makes your skin look nicer. So there's just a few things that I'd like to mention to you about mixing your foundations, right? You need to be very careful with mixing, because just taking any two browns, a light brown and a dark brown, and mixing them can often make your foundation look gray. When you're applying it, when you try to match it, it may look nice, but once you apply it all over your face, it can look very dull and it can look very gray. So my suggestion to you is that when you buy your foundation, buy the lightest one, the one that matches your chest, or the darkest one, the one that matches your chest best, right? And then you can shift that one. When you buy your concealer, the one that you're going to use for highlighting, for cream highlighting, and for your cream contour, buy the lightest one possible and buy the darkest one possible. And you can use those two for mixing your foundation, to shift it to a lighter tone or to shift it to a darker tone. And so when you're doing your concealing, or when you're doing your highlighting and your contouring, and that shades are too light or too dark, you can then use your foundation to shift that shade. So that way you basically buy one foundation and you're buying 2 concealers, and you're going to be able to match your chest, you're going to be able to match your face, you're going to be able to do your cream contour and your cream highlight as well. So I hope that made sense to you. It's just very important to be very careful when mixing foundations. Now, setting your foundation. Setting powders, as I've explained in the previous series in part 1, there's different types of setting powders, and it's really a personal choice as to what you will use. I like using a loose translucent powder, and the one I'm using is the Yardley translucent powder. Before I do that, I'm going to go back in with my wet small beauty blender, and I'm just going to make sure that I blend out any creases that might have come in from blinking my eyes from the time that I actually applied the foundation to now. Because if you don't blend out any creases that are there, what's going to happen when you set your foundation, you set in those creases. When you do your eyeshadow, the eyeshadow is going to go into those creases. So now that I've taken out, I've blended out all my creases, I'm going to take my beauty blender. As I've said in my previous videos, I use my beauty blenders for setting my foundation because I feel like I set it a lot better. It presses, with the beauty blender, it allows me to press the powder into my foundation, right? So take some on, and also you find there's a lot less wastage because you don't have a whole lot of powder falling off your brush, right? Okay, so I always start with my eyes first, and I'll press it in, and then with my beauty blender I'll go in and set the areas where I know I crease a lot. So my forehead, I will set my forehead. Okay, then also on the sides of the mouth, the laugh lines that we get. So I'm going to go in and I'm just going to press that powder in. Okay, and lastly I'll set my nose as well. Then I'm going to take my bigger brush, powder brush, I'm going to dip it into my powder and just make sure I tap off any excess powder so I'm not putting more product than I need to, and the rest of my face I'm just going to gently powder and it will set. Okay, and don't forget to set your neck as well. Always tapping off excess powder. Whenever you're using any product that is powder and you pick it up with your brush, make sure to always tap off any excess product. Okay, then I will always clean my brush. I'll just rub it on the towel, on the cloth, whatever, take off any excess powder that is there because I'm done setting my foundation, and now I'm going to go in with the same brush again and dust off my whole face and make sure that I remove any excess powder that is on my face. That is foundation and setting powder. So if you haven't watched my part 1 of my previous series where I explain color correcting, concealing, foundation, the brushes, and also setting powder, then you should go and watch that because I give a lot more detail and it will help with your application. So guys, that is it. That is it for our color application of color correcting, concealing, foundation, choosing your foundation color, mixing your foundation color, and setting your foundation. So guys, that is it for today's tutorial. Color correcting, concealing, choosing the correct color foundation, applying your foundation and setting it. I really enjoyed doing this video for you guys. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope that it really broke it down for you. I hope that I explained it well, and I really hope that you learned a lot and that you will be able to color correct or conceal. I hope that you will be able to choose the correct color foundation for yourself and be able to apply and set your foundation. Stay tuned for part 2, where we will be looking at highlighting, contouring, blusher and bronzer. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like it. If you're new to my channel, please subscribe and hit that notification bell so you can be notified every time I post a new video. Please feel free to share this video and do leave comments. I love the comments. I love interacting with you guys. Whether it's a comment, something you liked, a suggestion, just something that you would like to ask me, I will respond to every question or every comment. Before you go, I would like to leave you with my verse for the day, which is James 4 verse 7. Go and check it out, guys. Love you lots. God bless.